Hi, and welcome to the Pole Shift News. It's Gene from the mavestar Observatory. Guys, got a couple of things coming up in this video. But before we get into those, I just want to say big thanks to those people that support the observatory. You guys know what we're trying to do here. We're trying to answer those questions that our government agencies and organisations don't or are reluctant to come forward and answer for us. And it has caused the general public and this crowd-funded gathering of ours to privately fund a small observatory in order to answer those questions and get that data that is more evidently now more important. We want to know how much cosmic radiation is inbound in our atmosphere as a result of a grand solar minimum and a magnetic pole shift, which is a rare anomaly that takes place unusual terms every 350,000 years, despite the excursions that usually happen. But this time, for some reason, it has taken around about 500,000 years more for it to go through what could possibly be the next completed reversal. Guys, it is more overdue now than ever. We've got some data to look at from the Gold Coast. We've got all of Australia now. We've got two magnetometers, as you know, in Australia, one on Perth and one in the Gold Coast, and they're both back up online now, and we've got some data to have a look at from Richard over there, one of our superstars that's got one of our stations and supports one of our magnetometers from his property over there in the Gold Coast. So we'll have a look at that data. But more importantly, in this video, what I wanted to talk about is just to try and get it home to you guys that we are facing some major changes, and I don't think some people have quite envisioned what changes are we talking about. So let's get the data out of the way. Let's look at what really we focus on at the mavestar Observatory, and then we'll talk about these changes. And guys, I think it'll be well worth you sticking around to hear what we're about to say, because these are inevitable and there is nothing that anyone can do to stop these changes taking place, and they are all going to affect us. So let's get on with having a look at the Gold Coast data and just have a little brief talk about that, and then we'll get into this more important topic of the changes that are coming, whether we like it or not. So this is the recent data that Richard's collected for us with his magnetometer that we sent out to him. Again, there was a few problems with his magnetometer. We got it sorted. There was a few problems that we sorted over in Perth. Now we're back online, completely covering Australia, both on the east and west coast. And what we're mainly interested in is that large intensity that is creeping up over that continent right now towards the equatorial region. You can see that over the month of the data being collected from the 12th of the 9th 2019 from to the 8th of the 10th 2019, there has been a very gradual decline in the intensity that the magnetometers recorded, and it's only going to be over a matter of time now that when we keep getting the data regularly every month, that we will see a shift. Just over the last week, guys, or just at the beginning of this month, we're on the 9th now, so we've had 4 of our data sets or data drops come from Hong Kong, Kentucky, and both Perth and Gold Coast, Australia. It's a pity we couldn't get nothing back from India. As you guys know, I sent out a magnetometer to India, and from the point of it being sent out, we never had nothing from Ricky over there. That seems to have just disappeared completely now. So I hope he's well, but very strange that we lost one of our magnetometers and we no longer have any contact at all from Ricky with regards to that. But that's the way it is sometimes, guys. At least we've still got 4 of the magnetometers that the 5 that we've got coming in with regular data. We really need to get JD back online with his over in South California. If you remember, there was a few earthquakes, and we just wanted to see whether during those major earthquakes that they had recently over the last couple of months ago, whether there was anything that we could note from the magnetometer readings over there. But But there you are. Okay, so let's get into the topic of the changes that are coming. I think that's what we really need to focus on, because this is where things are going to start affecting us. And guys, they already are in some respects, but they're about to, I think, step up a notch. Okay, so where shall we start? Okay, so if you're a logic thinker and you have a certain amount of intelligence about you, then I think you'll agree with everything I'm about to say in the coming few moments. So, change is without a doubt going to happen, and there's nothing any one of us can do about it. Nature is changing the course of our weather patterns on this earth, and one thing that has been a standard in supporting growing empires in the past has been steady crop seasons and normal growing seasons, and as we know it, they have ceased to be predictable, and it's only a matter of time now before unrest and social disorder starts, and it is already starting. I mean, we're seeing the signs of it over here in the UK. It doesn't matter how much the government want to falsify their data with regards to outputs of crops and things like that. At the end of the day, people will eventually wake up to the truth. What does it mean for us, guys? I think in a nutshell, I think we're going to have to learn to live with less energy, less food, unless you can grow it in abundance yourself, as well as having to deal with living with no government at all, no regular jobs, and no surplus foods at stores and shops, as well as all the other things like clothing and things like that. I think all these things are going to be a thing of the past, and what's going to go along with this is the technology that we are used to enjoying, and it won't take much to cause all these things to take effect. If I can just give you a quick analogy as opposed to what desperate people will do in order to get what they want, despite all the odds. If we just look at what car manufacturers do to stop people stealing cars now, with fitting immobilizers, alarms, and all the other fabulous technology that's available now to car manufacturers to secure cars from being stolen. If we just use the analogy that if the car thief is determined to pinch the car, regardless of what alarm system's on it, he's just going to get a grab truck or a recovery truck and load the car onto it and take it, and there's nothing you can do about that. And that is exactly what the government are doing right now. They don't realise it perhaps completely. I do think that we give them more credit than what they actually deserve, but I don't think that they do see exactly what they're doing by now controlling the food industry. What is inevitably going to happen to the governments of the world is, with this this new sustainability that they keep bringing and boasting about, that they're going to bring into force, where we use instead of combustion engines, we use electric vehicles. Well, that's going to take out massive corporations that have been in power for a long time. That means that they can't sell the oil after a certain amount of time, because no one will need it, because simply unless it's being used for the chemical industry, which is probably a better use of crude oil and stuff like that, but if we just remove that, then can you imagine how much revenue is lost from just that single sector? And what they're doing also is they're trying to control the food industry as well. As a result of this, like the car thief results to getting a recovery truck or a grab truck to pick the car up, what people are doing is they're now looking at creating means where they can grow their own food, produce their own electricity, and all this money inevitably ends up not being circulated around the system if people aren't using money as a result of not needing to buy energy because they're producing their own, and they're not buying foods because they're producing their own. Then these are large sectors of tax revenues for governments, which we all know. If you was a smart crook and you could get your hands on the taxpayer's purse, you could then write your own checks for anything. But if that taxpayer's purse rapidly shrinks as a result of nobody using currency and therefore no taxes are collected, then they're going to lose what they've got at the moment. And there is no two ways about it, from the way I see it, that these changes and these times are coming. We are going to be at some point in the not too distant future without governance at all, and a lot of people are going to enjoy that, I can imagine. But we're going to have to do away with a lot of the things that we are now regularly enjoying as a result of governments. I'm not saying governments are good things, but we do enjoy a couple of things that an organisation does give. I'm going to cop some flack for this, but the point I'm trying to make is that whether they like it or not, what are supported empires of the past has been regular seasons, regular crop growing seasons, and where we've been able to mass produce food, import it to cities, and the cities have grown. What we're seeing right now is something that's pulling this system to bits, and it starts with that very simple thing: seasons. We've seen the seasons rapidly change because of more cosmic radiation that's coming through our atmosphere as a result of grand solar minimum, and a weakening magnetosphere as a result of a pole shift that's taking place. And this is going to change that very, very simple thing that supports our everyday normal life. And it won't take much once it is affected to disable completely the technological infrastructure that keeps our world the way we enjoy it right now running. And when that happens, it's only a matter of time before social unrest kicks in, and a lot of those things that we saw take place perhaps in St. Petersburg, Russia, during the blockade of the Second World War, where cannibalism starts to come in. And we're starting to see this. If you follow other YouTube channels, you'll start to see that the government are trying to suggest that eating human meat isn't a bad thing. So these changes are coming, guys, whether we like it or not. And the best thing we can do is learn to very quickly adapt to the coming environment that we are soon going to be facing, because at some point we are going to be faced with a lack of food. And even if you've got plenty of money, it still isn't going to buy a loaf of bread. And that's if you can get a loaf of bread from a bakery. All these things are coming about. And the point of making this video is to just bring it home to you guys that when people start to get desperate, we don't see all the angles that can bring down the castle, but it is sometimes those little cracks in the foundations that lead to major cracks that bring down walls of that castle. And we are starting to see that happen right now. We're starting to see the government try and shift its goalposts and its agendas, but inevitably, like I said earlier with the analogy I give of the car thief, is going to steal the car regardless because he wants it. And that's exactly what desperate people do in desperate times. When it comes down to it, we've seen it and we've witnessed it, and it's been recorded in our history as human beings, and our behaviour has been recorded, that when it comes down to these hard times, we will do whatever we need to. So I'm not going to go on about it too much, guys. I think you get the picture. But there's nothing we can do. There really is nothing we can do about the nature of our Earth, and the nature of our Earth clearly shows us that it is changing, and we are the ones that have to adapt to that. And this is why me and a lot of other YouTube channels are saying to you guys out there, you really need to start learning to support yourselves, and slowly wean yourself off the grid and your standard way of life. If you can do it. I want to end the video with a positive note, but it's really very difficult to sugarcoat the situation. When you're faced with the facts, The climate hasn't started to show changes of improvement. The jet streams are still fracturing and intertwining with polar jet streams, subtropical jet streams, both over the northern and southern hemisphere of this planet. And we're seeing no signs of the grand solar minimum come to an end. We haven't seen the magnetic North Pole go back to its current position, or even start to migrate that way. We are still in a very much time of flux, and as we are in this time, things aren't going to go for the better for us at the moment. Like I said, empires have built their empires on seasons, enabling them first of all to secure that very first thing, agricultural and cattle production. When we start to see those foundations of our society crumble, and we are arable land going offline because of seasonal changes. We've got 7 billion people on this planet that need to eat food and drink clean water, and with what we see, it's very hard to, like I say, sugarcoat it on a good note and end it on a good note. The only thing I can say is that through bad experiences, lessons are learned, and we leave the next generation of people on this planet with the knowledge of what probably brought down this way of life that we're all about to experience change very much. For now, guys, the only advice I can give you is learn to use alternative methods of generating your own energy, and grow your own food, because at least for the short time, or the short hold, you won't go without. So I'm going to end it here. We've got a lot going on at the observatory this week. We're trying to get the TriMag system back online. Scaffolding is still around the building. Hopefully it will be gone within the next few days. When that happens, we'll switch it back on and start collecting more data. The magnetosphere sensor will come back online also, and on top of that, we've now had the power supply delivered that we wanted. It's a case of wiring it up, so we should get some progress updates with regards to the cloud generator, on how close we are to actually seeing those vapor trails go through the cloud generator, of possibly even cosmic rays and collisions, as well as other subatomic particles which we can identify. And on top of that, we should have, hopefully this Saturday, our first working muon detector. So guys, I'll say what I usually do. We do a little bit more than just talk on this channel about these events, and try and help you guys understand what it is that actually you face. As you know, we build equipment and we collect data, and we inform you of that, where other government organisations don't. So I'll say what I usually do. There's a link down there if you want to support us. You can do it on PayPal or Patreon. It's entirely up to you. But simply, if we don't get support, we can't build equipment, and we can't continue with doing what we do. And if you go onto our website, you'll see that we cover quite a lot. So I think there's a lot worse of things that you can do with a couple of bucks than support an observatory that's trying to observe the changes and relay that information back to the people, because we're automatically taxed by our governments, and as a result of that, we still don't get the information, ironically. So I'll leave it there, guys. I'll say what I usually do. You have a good week, and I'll catch up with you soon. As always, bye for now.